Hi, folks. This is Jeff Dunetz. I'm in my normal Thursday slot, and there's somebody not here. Mark Schaftlein. He actually, see, my birthday is Saturday, and he knows how much I like to host the show. So he's letting me host it today, and he's gone away for it. Today's guest is actually a friend of mine, AJ Kaufman, who's also is known as Ari Kaufman, which is what I call him. Don't ask me why, but he's a correspondent for several newspapers, magazines, business journals from Minnesota and Ohio, and from Tennessee to Virginia. He's taught school in L.A. He served as a military historian. He's done just about everything. His journalism career. He's the author of 3 books, a frequent guest on radio, and like the Ed Morrissey program. We had Ed on actually once when I was hosting, and his best is he's a contributor to Israel National News, and most importantly, LidBlog, which is my site. So we have a good time today. There's a lot of things going on, keeping to the tradition that everything happens on Thursday or around Thursday. It's important to talk about. I hope everybody had a great Independence Day. I actually read the Declaration of Independence on Independence Day, and then had beer and hot dogs. But anyway, Ben and Jerry's had some weird things going on. They printed something, tweeted something saying basically that the United States stole all its land from the Native Americans, and they should start giving back the land, starting with, of course, Mount Rushmore. Other people jumped into this. A lot of the Democratic congressmen said, hey, this is a good thing. Let's give the land back. They didn't say anything about where they're going to put the other people. But it was good for Ben and Jerry's to make a liberal reaction, which is what they did do. A couple of months ago, they did the we're not selling in Israel anymore. Ari, what do you think of these nuts got jobs?
I think do they grow up around you in Long Island? I think they're
No.
about 70, no? You sure?
In Vermont.
Well, they live in Vermont now, but I think they have their roots in New York, in a good Jewish family. And that probably is an issue for them, that they've long been anti-American left-wing hacks. I was a kid in the 80s, and I remember all their pro-communist propaganda. They do like making money, though. Good billionaire communists. They do have very expensive, overrated ice cream, and they do not like America. Imagine that.
One thing they didn't mention is the fact that their factory is on land that used to be owned by the Native Americans. So do as I say, not as I do.
I think everyone sitting on land that wasn't owned by someone before them, and the Native Americans might have been on land that was owned by someone before then. So I don't get into these land disputes. I think they're all balderdash.
Okay. Now here's something that's funny. Okay. And it's quick. At a King supermarket in Colorado, 3 men were stealing $500 worth of laundry detergent. Now, how dirty does somebody's clothes have to be to need $500 of laundry detergent? I'm glad I wasn't there, because it must be, one of the employees, instead of telling his management that these guys were doing that, he took a video of them. So he's like a Spielberg wannabe, and he got fired. Do you think someone should get fired for that, Ari?
I could go either way on that, but I think it's funny that we're talking about Colorado and Vermont and laundry detergent, and you can make your own jokes from there.
That's true. Another weird thing was some of the reactions to the recent Supreme Court decisions. It was Dum Dum Durbin in the Senate. Basically, they were saying that the court has lost its legitimacy because they didn't give the decisions we wanted. And the interesting thing is that before the court had I don't call it conservative, but had an originalist majority, meaning that they stuck to this thing called the Constitution they're supposed to stick to. It was a very liberal court that were legislators. And AOC doesn't like the Supreme Court now, and neither does Durbin. And I think that they're being kind of crazy. I mean, they're putting down. The court is a third branch of government that is just as powerful as the legislature and the president. What do you think?
Well, I think a lot of things. I think your friend Chuck Schumer there in New York also said that the fight isn't ending here. And we know that AOC is a megalomaniac and not the most intelligent person. And the fact that CNN has her on Sunday morning to be the chief analyst for the left is amazing. That just shows how much power she has in the party, despite what some people say. But I think it's amazing. These people on the left who always have wanted the court to act more like a legislature, for years they've been asking for that. Now they don't. And Schumer, who's the Senate leader for the Democrats, and apparently doesn't understand the separation of powers, they are angry at the Supreme Court for the court suggesting they have a role, the court does, as the Constitution requires in how taxpayer money is spent. And this is the same AOC who wants to advocate for expanding the number of justices. So I don't know if it's all politics or she doesn't like the court, but the idea that they are out of touch or some right-wing court is funny, because if you look at the 11 decisions that were given out this term, the liberal justices, the 3 women, stuck together on all 11. Okay. The conservative, so-called conservative, because 2 or 3 of them you could argue are more moderate, they have nuance. Those people actually go through the cases and decide on their own, and they flip, and some of them side with the liberals, some of them side on their own. One time, Samuel Alito was the only person who was on one side on an immigration case. So it's only one group
that's hiding under his desk.
Well, Roberts, I don't want to get too into Roberts. He had a very strong opinion on the affirmative action case, one of his best, actually. And so did Thomas, of course, as you'd expect. But the thing is, Joe Biden calls this a not normal court, I believe is his words. This is all political theater. But the 3 dissenters are the ones, when you read their dissents, they're ignoring legal reasoning for political ideology. There's no legal argument for their dissent. And Sotomayor, I know she's from your part of the country as well. This woman she would be teaching 8th grade social studies if she didn't have some affirmative action going her way. They ignore the actual case and they appeal to emotion.
She couldn't teach that because you have to know the Constitution.
I was trying to be nice, Jeff. I was trying to be nice.
Okay. I wanted to mail them a copy, but I didn't think they'd reach it. And by the way,
they were just really intellectual, lazy analyses with misinformation and a lot of dishonest representation by the 3 liberal justices, especially Sotomayor and Jackson.
Well, they don't believe in the First Amendment, but when it comes to Schumer, he's not my friend. He doesn't know how to wear glasses.
Rim of the nose.
Right? Like this.
Yes.
But actually, when my daughter worked for a congressman, Schumer almost ran her down with his bicycle. I don't know if it was because me or it was something else, but
he's riding a bicycle at his age?
Yeah, can you believe that?
Not really.
Not as bad as the transportation secretary who rides a car until a block away from the executive building and then gets off and gets his bicycle and rides it. So he looks like, hey.
That's where the cameras are.
Yep. Okay, let's switch to the future. Okay. We're going to have, I feel, a very crazy election season. As we see now, Trump has like a 31% advantage over DeSantis. And I have to tell you something. He's been even since he was indicted. So that didn't do anything to him, except he got him more money, but it didn't change his percentage. And you look at Biden, he's got a 50% lead over crazy Kennedy, you know?
Well,
I think
it
Kennedy
would
is,
be interesting to see if Democrats would actually put someone else in there who's legitimate and see what the lead would be, because Kennedy's an anti-American conspiratorial lunatic. The other lady is pretty much Williamson the same. If the Democrats actually weren't so feckless and could actually muster a significant primary challenge against Biden with someone, and I don't like any of these guys or gals, but Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, the governor of Colorado, someone who is a little more palatable, it'd be interesting to see if Biden would still have that lead or any lead.
yeah, well, no one's going to run against him, as no one serious is going to run against him as long as he
Seems that way.
decides to keep on running. I think there are many in the party that are begging him not to run, and I don't think they'll stop him.
Yeah, only he can step aside. He's the only one who can do that. Not since LBJ, as far as my history knows, which was 55 years ago, has anyone stepped aside voluntarily.
I had hair then.
I was not alive, so I may have not had hair.
But the interesting thing is that if this Hunter thing keeps on going, and with Trump on the other, if they're debating each other, it'll be the first time two presidential candidates will be debating each other, each wearing an ankle bracelet.
It's quite a choice we have in front of us. It's really we've got some serious issues in this country, and we've got possibly those two guys who are both older than you significantly as the final options.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the other polling data, it says that most Americans don't want that race. They don't want either one of them to run. And it's not just those people, is that they feel that the country needs something new.
They do.
And we
the Republicans are providing options. The Democrats really aren't. I realize Biden's the incumbent, but it's in Biden's case, there's no other option on their side. In Trump's case, he does have a lead, but you've got other candidates dividing the vote, as happened in 2016. And he's still got his 30 or 35% who aren't going to leave him. And we'll have to see. The only thing about the polls is I need to see more by state. I know Trump's winning in Iowa and New Hampshire, but by how much? And if people like Nikki Haley or Tim Scott drop out, let's say, and endorse DeSantis, or vice versa, if it gets to be a one-on-one or a 3 or 4 person race in these states, then what happens to the polls? And that's what's going to be interesting.
2016, as soon as he lost one, Christie dropped out so he could kiss Obama again.
And I think he kissed Trump first, and then he kissed Obama in 2016. Remember, he was standing behind Trump, like over his shoulder before he got in the plane. Right after,
It was scary. Yeah. Him and Rubio talking about the size of what we shouldn't talk about on air. But yes, the size of their hand, meaning the size of something else. Which
shoulders.
Yeah, shoulders. But it's not something that you want from either presidential candidate.
No.
This is going to be weird. And personally, I think DeSantis is dropping. I think his image is dropping. While I agree with a lot of his stands on school and what should be taught at school, the way he's doing it is off-putting.
Yeah, I think he's right on the issues, but he comes across, I don't want to say authoritarian, because I don't like that word, but he comes across a bit as a bully, even though, again, he's on the right side of this. He should focus on the border, where he's done well when he's gone down there, maybe foreign policy, generally economics, talking about COVID, because he kept the state open, and other politicians, and even Trump at the beginning wanted to close things down. That's where he could have more popularity. But again, he's a governor, so the question also is, do people want governors or senators? There's always that question. He was also a congressman, DeSantis.
Usually a governor that wins over a senator, but that doesn't mean it'll have.
Unless you're the Democrats who never run governors, if you look, not since Clinton.
Well, yeah, but you had Clinton, you had Carter.
Right, not since them though. That's 30 years.
That's true. But what you're finding with the Democrats is they're going after the most liberal person, and now with the Republicans, in some cases, going after the most conservative person. and sometimes it's too far conservative. I just hope, and we have you like DeSantis as a number two, being winning the nomination.
Well, even if as my number two choice, if I was filling in the ballot,
Yeah.
Well, I think Tim Scott's the best choice because I think he would win easily.
My choice too.
Right. I think Tim Scott would easily. I want someone who can beat Joe Biden. I don't really care who it is, and I think Tim Scott is the best chance, and he would easily beat Joe Biden. But I don't know if he'll get the nomination.
Plus, in my mind, he's the kind of person that will go to the other side and try to make a deal.
He's also running an optimistic, positive campaign, which is not easy to do when the other party's in power. It's easy to be angry, and that's fine. DeSantis and Haley and Trump are running a campaign where they're bashing Biden and sounding a little pessimistic, and that's fine when you're out of power because there are a lot of problems right now. But Scott has that quality of the Southern pastor, and he's uplifting. He talks about race in a totally different way than most people do, especially on the left. And I think his message would be great, but question is, can he get enough votes to even compete or have enough money to stay in?
Well, I think that Trump's going to get it unless there's a lot more people indicting him.
Question is whether Trump will debate. That'll be interesting if he skips the debates.
Well, he said he's not going to. He might not do the first one.
I know. I think that's a mistake. I understand why he's doing it. He's got the lead, but I do think the average person who's not locked in for Trump, let's just say, will see that and be like, why doesn't he have to debate? It's an open primary. He's not the incumbent. Everyone else is debating.
Right. Although on the other side, Biden isn't.
No, he's not going to debate. He's not.
And they canceled all the debates. You know, something else about Biden that really made me angry this week, is that he ignored his illegitimate granddaughter from his son. And I've been
doing that for months, Jeff. He's been,
but it became,
remember the quote a few months ago? I've got 6 grandchildren. I'm crazy about them. I speak to them every single day. No, he's got 7 grandchildren. He's got a 4-year-old in Batesville, Arkansas, who staffers have been told not to talk about. And he doesn't talk about her, nor does the first lady. It's unbelievably cruel for a guy who fancies himself as a family man or portrays himself that way, not to acknowledge a 4-year-old who is the granddaughter of the president of the United States and gets nothing out of it.
I think that it shows his real heart.
Yeah, not good.
She's a kid. You don't do that. I mean, I'm not trying to label her, but that's what she is. And you don't do that to a child. Although she knows that who her grandfather is.
She does. She knows who he is. And she's getting money, I guess, now from Hunter after a while. But, basically he was giving her art paintings or something, or discount paintings before.
Part of that is the paintings. Yeah. What she's getting.
And the lawyer I forget if it was Hunter's lawyer or his baby mama, for lack of better terms, lawyer, but said, the little girl's going to be just fine. She's got a lot of love, and they're not even going to try to get Biden to say anything about it. And the spokeswoman, Karine Jean-Pierre, wouldn't talk about it, said, I got nothing to say about that. I mean, it's the kind of thing that goes across political spectrum that makes people angry when the president just denies that he has a granddaughter when he does from his son.
And it's not just the president. If anybody denies their granddaughter.
Yeah, exactly.
And part of the agreement was that she can't use the last name Biden.
Right. That's where it's amazing. Amazing. I'm not going to play the what about game, but again, what if this were Trump? What if this were a Republican? It's amazing to think how the media. Now, the New York Times did have the story this weekend. I mean, credit the New York Times. I don't say that often. They had the blockbuster report on Saturday about this whole situation that we've known about for a while, but they did cover it finally, which means there are some liberals who are now reading and hearing about this finally.
Yeah. Speaking of Hunter.
Yes.
This whole cocaine in the White House thing, and everybody's saying it's Hunter. Actually, it can't be Hunter. Okay. And people shouldn't, Hunter doesn't go through that entrance. Okay. That's a general person interest. He goes straight into the entrance by the Oval Office. So people are making assumptions, and the other thing is Hunter doesn't do cocaine. he does crack. If you saw he released
subtle difference.
You know, is there a lot of different? I don't know. I haven't done either. So
yeah, it's been a while. Yeah,
but he released his picture on his computer of him driving 70 miles an hour down the street smoking crack.
Don't you do that every Thursday afternoon?
No. I do ice cream and Diet Coke.
That sounds good right now.
And with all the problems I've had this year, I can't drive. So, you know, I get on my children's thing. You know, you ever see those red cars with the yellow? Yes. That's the only thing I could drive. Actually, when I go to a supermarket with my wife, I only go so I could use that cart because it makes me feel like I'm driving. You know, the electric.
Yeah, you know, in the South, we call the carts buggies. I just found that out when I moved down here about a year ago, that they're called buggies, not carts. So now you know. Don't call them a cart.
Sounds like what they call it in Great Britain.
Yeah, imagine that. The British rubbing off on parts of the American Southeast. There's some history there.
You know, another thing that, in my mind, Biden's screwing up. You know, while Iran is thumbing their nose at the United States all the time, Biden is trying to make a new nuclear agreement while they're saying no, and he's giving them anything they want, including that other granddaughter. And yesterday there were two tankers. This we did right. Two tankers trying to be caught by the Iranian military, and the United States ships had to stop them. And one of the war ships, they shot at. And you know, it didn't sink, but it had a lot of bullet holes. You know, Iran is not our friend. Iran will never be our friend as long as this radical Islamic group will be the leaders.
Yeah, and I wrote for your website 2 weeks ago about that, and I'm probably going to write another one next week based upon what's going on, because the Biden administration is still trying to cozy up to Iran and kind of basically, you know, loosen their ties to Israel, at least in our opinion. But we are really, you know, there's little trust, there's no trust and little verification when it comes to these deals, and the White House just wants to hope and pay money and give billions to Iran and pray that they can push it past the election, and they're going to, you know, get nothing in return. And Iranian theocrats, as I wrote in the article, I'll just quote from my article, could take our money and accumulate more highly enriched uranium, expand its tunnels to protect nuclear facilities from attack, and otherwise prepare to develop nuclear weapons. And they're going to be stronger globally because of it. So the White House just continues to suffer
from nuclear weapons.
What's that?
They're this far away from the nuclear weapons. They could do it tomorrow.
Do you think the White House has the ability to distinguish between allies and enemies in the Middle East?
Well, if you remember when he was vice president, he said to Israel, they're going to have to get used to Iran having the bomb.
Yeah. Well, that was back in the Obama years.
You know, well, guess what? This administration is Obama 2.
Oh, 3, because he had 2 terms. 3.
He treats Israel the same way as Obama did.
Yeah, I don't think deep inside Biden has as much venomous hatred for Israel as Obama did. I really do. We talked about Obama. He's openly anti-Israel. Biden's a Democrat senator, has been there forever. He's not been good to Israel, but I don't think he's openly anti-Israel. But he certainly has people in the administration who are, and those are the ones who are calling the shots.
Well, I actually did an analysis through his whole career. In the Senate, he's made anti-Israel votes. But I think that the real thing is that he goes the way the wind blows.
Oh, yeah. Certainly now he does.
Well, right. And the Democratic Party generally is anti-Israel.
It is, at least for the last 15 years, yes.
Yeah, right. Obama was, and last time I checked, there were like 29 members of the House that were blatantly anti-Israel.
I would think it'd be more, because there's like 80 members of the Progressive Caucus, and I would think almost all of them are, but maybe not openly. The
Well,
question is how many senators?
There's one person on the Republican Party that is Massey.
He's a libertarian, so he hates everyone outside of the
Right.
U.S.
But that's a party that just doesn't like, and some of them aren't just anti-Israel; they're anti-Semitic.
Well, the squad types, yep. Cori Bush, AOC,
and
Omar.
The BDS movement is anti-Semitic. People don't understand
openly.
that.
Openly.
You know,
I don't think they even deny it.
I think they deny it, but because
Rashida Tlaib would deny it. I don't know.
Well, she would say it's Israel's, it's the Jews' fault.
I've heard that before.
And when, what's her name, made these anti-Israel tweets.
Ilhan Omar?
Yeah, Omar, the one who
my old friend from Minneapolis. Yeah.
Married her brother and then married her marketing consultant.
A white man.
Well, that I don't care about.
Imagine that, though.
Some people wanted to punish her. And what they came out with is a resolution that says, well, some people are mean to some people sometimes.
Is that a play on the 9/11 tweet? Some people did something somewhere at some point?
I guess so. You know,
brilliant.
She's brilliant, and so's Tlaib. And
Cori Bush is definitely a scholar.
Well, yesterday she was talking about reparations.
She always is.
But I have to tell you something.
Please.
I don't have problems with reparations as long as it's somebody who was a slave and is still alive. I think they deserve reparations.
A lot of those around.
Right. There are none of those around. But listen, my people were slaves in Egypt. Now, granted, it was a long time ago, but so is slavery. Why aren't I get reparations? Why don't I get reparations for the fact that they were being beaten up in Russia every day? Or when they came to the United States, they couldn't get a job because no one wanted to hire Jews or Asians.
Or Irish.
Or Irish. You know, yes, there is racism in this country, but it's not inherent in the teaching or in the people. Okay.
It's not systemic or institutional, like they say. There's always individual racists. There are KKK movements in the hills of Appalachia that I know about, still with 20 people gathering around, but that's not institutional, systemic, and that's not affecting the everyday life of a guy in Chicago or Detroit or Dallas.
Right. And let's not forget who started the KKK.
That would be the Democrats after the Civil
War.
Right.
But this has been a great conversation, but Ari, I'm sorry, we got to wrap it up. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on. And folks, tomorrow we'll have a column from Ari on LidBlog that will be on the Iran.
I may push Iran back to next week. I've got some thoughts about a anti-Semitic battle in the populist movement on social media. You'll find it interesting.
Okay. But hit LidBlog.com for more of Ari's writing tomorrow afternoon.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Ari. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.